Oh gosh. Woo, that's heavy, man. I did it again. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry, but I did it again. Record Store Day, Black Friday 2024, and I spent over $1,400 on some amazing albums. And I didn't intend to be quite honest with you. I didn't set out with this big of a list. A little backstory before we dive into going through the albums and the selections and why I chose each album. This was an interesting record store day for me. First off, it was really cold. I don't know how it was where you guys were, but here in North Carolina, for North Carolinians, it was a very cold morning. There was several times throughout waiting. I got to the local a little bit after midnight. I arrived. I was the first person there, which is the first time ever I've been first in line for Record Store Day. So that was kind of cool. I was really excited about that because I knew I had a chance to get first eyes on everything, right? I didn't have to worry about, oh, there's only one copy and somebody grabbed it. You know those things. And I've been there. I've been there where somebody right next to me grabs a copy and it's the last one. I'm like, shoot, that was the album I really wanted. So I didn't have to deal with that, which was cool. But I did have to deal with trying to keep warm, and I was layered, man. I had I had like 3 or 4 different layers on my chest, like a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, a jacket, all these kind of things, and pants as well. And I was still freezing. It was really struggle. And then you try not to like drink too much because if you drink like something hot, like coffee or tea, then you might have to use the restroom, and there's no restrooms. Nothing's open that hour. It's not like you could just find a decent place to use the facilities. So it was an interesting dynamic of trying to keep warm but not drink anything to keep warm. So I literally brought coffee with me. I was just holding the cup just to try to stay warm. So it was cool. Another reason this Record Store Day was a little bit unique is that I actually had a chance to partake and be a guest on the newly minted, it's rebranded channel, but they now call themselves the Graybeards Nation. And it's, I love the rebranding. I love the logo. I love the themes. It's just basically 2 more older gentlemen talking about music, and they have so much knowledge and experience about music that I think it's going to be a fantastic rebranding of their channel. And they did a live stream at Phil's Music Exchange in Wilson, North Carolina, where we interviewed Phil. We had a chance to interview people shopping for records before and after they bought records. We also talked a lot about Record Store Day and some of the albums and some of the history behind some of these albums. So it was a really cool first time we all ever done a live stream together at a record store. So there was a lot that we learned during that experience as well. I'll tell you what, if you're interested in checking that out, which is a fun video, if you got time to kill, it's definitely something to watch. I'll put a link in the description below. If it's not available by the time this video comes out, I'll be sure to update the description or put a link in the chat. I'll leave a note in the chat for you to check that out. So that was kind of cool. Let's get back to this though. So I'm there, a little bit past midnight. I have nothing to do. The next group of 4, they all came together. Didn't show up for almost 2.5 hours later. So I was literally sitting there for about 2.5 hours with no one to talk to, no company, nothing. It was, it was a little bit lonely, I'm going to say, but I kept myself busy. I kept myself busy in 2 ways. I watched a bunch of videos, other fellow YouTubers on our Record Store Day comments, which I gotta be honest with you, I added albums to my target list, my want list, if you will, because of that, because this is a great album, great pressing, this is fantastic. Some YouTubers got albums early and are like, it sounds wonderful, it sounds fantastic. So I added things to my list that quite frankly weren't on my list. And the other thing I did was a little bit of a mistake, as I started to preview albums. I tried to go on Spotify to find out if I liked that album or not, if I thought it sounded good, if it was well recorded. And I started to add albums to my list then too, and it was it was not a good decision. Not a good way to kill. I should have just downloaded some movies, because I really came to Record Store Day with maybe 10 things on the list, and I would have been super happy just to walk away with 5. And then what ended up happening is this that you see before you, this literally a full crate of records that I'm about to share with you. I didn't mean to, but over $1,400 on record store day. Last record store day, I spent over $1,700. You saw the video. You probably did. If you didn't, you could check that one out. And now this is $1,400. Record store day is becoming a thing. Is becoming a thing for me, and I should probably stay away. It's not healthy for me. Although, I think the biggest challenge I have is I'm running out of space here. I got records now in the hallway and stuff, so I got to find room for all of these things. And of course, I got to find time to listen to them, because I will open and listen to all of these with maybe one exception, and I'm going to share that with you as we get to the album. But I want to share with you what I picked up, because I know a lot of people are into that. They want to know what I picked up. So I'm going to get into that here in just a second. But I do want to ask for forgiveness. I've been up since yesterday. I got up for Thanksgiving, just like all of you did, to spend time with family and eat a bunch of food and get fatter, if you will. And I haven't been to bed yet. So I've literally been up for a day and a half. I've been out in the cold, freezing my butt off. I've been hyped up on coffee just to try to stay alive. And I'm tired, as you can imagine. It's been a long day. I'm not young like I used to be, so pulling an all-nighter, if you will, is taxing on the body. It's also taxing on the mind. So as I go through these albums, if I say something incorrectly or pronounce something incorrectly, feel free to say, hey, you made a mistake. I'm good with that. But just don't throw stones, man. One, it's hard to do these videos to begin with. And the second thing is when you're sleep deprived, it's even harder. Let me just say that. It's even harder. So let me get this rearranged here where it's in a little bit better position. And I would like to share with you the records I picked up for Record Store Day. You could probably perhaps see some of the records here on the back. I did pick up about, I think, two or three non-Record Store Day albums, and I'll talk to you about them as well. But let me just move this slightly so we can get a better position, and I'm going to share with you what I picked up. Okay, folks, I think this arrangement's going to work. We're just going to go with it. So the first record was the Allman Brothers Band. This is Manley Fieldhouse at Syracuse University, April 7th, 1972. Obviously a live album, 3 LPs in orange, blue, and a splatter color. It's a numbered copy. This is number 3,909. The Allman Brothers is just such a great band. You're going to notice a theme here. And I think it was more the theme of Record Store Day. I'm going to start out with, and this is going to sound, I'm going to contradict myself here, because what you saw me pick up is going to contradict what I'm about to say. I'm not a live album person. I really have to love a band to buy a live album. But I bought a lot of live albums this time. And a lot of those choices was because people said they sounded good. They were recorded well. These were great concerts, very energetic, just wonderful additions. And I noticed I purchased a lot of live albums. But to be fair, this Record Store Day list for Black Friday had a lot of live albums on it. I mean, it was hard not to get into live albums this release. So this is one I'm interested in picking up. I don't think I have any live albums of the Allman Brothers Band, so I figured, what the heck, I might as well add one to the list. So I'm actually looking forward to listening to that. This one here is the Ramones' greatest hit. I will tell you, I wasn't going to get this, and I'll tell you exactly why I wasn't going to get this. There's two reasons why I wasn't going to get this. The first reason is that I have a lot of Ramones albums, and I think I might have all of their studio albums. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty certain I do. If not, I'm almost due. The second thing is that this is nearly an hour's worth of music cut to one LP. So I was very concerned that it's going to be compressed. This I bought into because almost every rock YouTube channel out there was super stoked about getting this album. Everybody was talking it up, and I think I just got caught up in the hype. People are like, oh, it's got to sound good because Rhino's on it, etc., etc. And then somebody said something that really stand out to me is that sometimes you just don't want to listen to a whole Ramones album. Sometimes you just want to hear some of their hits, and that's why they're picking this up, because when you're in the mood for Ramones, sometimes you just want the hits. And I'm like, There's something to that. That's actually a great statement. So that's why I picked this bad boy up. I'm hoping it sounds good. I'm telling you, I'm a little bit, I don't know if this was a smart choice. It was $25. In the scheme of things, it was insignificant, but I know $25 is a lot. I could buy another record for $25, you know? So I don't know. That one I'm a little bit, I don't know if that was a good choice. That one might be some buyer's remorse. Okay, so we got Raekwon here, a member of the Wu-Tang Clan, and this is his kind of solo album. 25th anniversary pressing of it. You know, I gotta be honest with you, I like hip hop. So for me, I picked up a lot of hip hop records this time, and I didn't see any reason why not to pick up this one. I like the fact that it was not a picture disc. I didn't pick up the one that was a picture disc, not from this artist, but a different rap thing. I just don't do picture discs. I avoid them at all costs. But this is, you know, I'm hoping this sounds good. You know, sometimes rap could be hit or miss. And sometimes it could sound really good and sometimes it can't. I'm hoping that this sounds really good. I'm excited to give it a spin. The next album up here is U2. This is kind of the making of their latest album. This is how to reassemble an atomic bomb, excuse me. See, sleep deprivation starting already. Can't even say the word bomb. This is brand new songs discovered in the archives of the recording sessions of how to dismantle an atomic bomb. So yeah, this is kind of just new music and I'm looking forward to giving that a spin. I hope that it sounds good. I got to tell you, I am a person that feels like U2 tends to not, their albums tend not really to sound that great. Their vinyl, I should say, doesn't tend to sound that great. So I'm hoping that it's resolved in this. I don't know, man, but I am excited to check out the music itself. Let's see, we got Van Halen live. I wasn't going to pick this up. Again, as I said earlier, that I'm not a fan of live albums. I got to tell you, everybody was raving about this. First time on vinyl, live in Dallas. So many folks were pumped up about this. Even the record store owner, Phil, was pumped up about this album, talking really highly of it. And this was one I think I just got caught up in the mix of it all. I like Van Halen. If you've been a member of this channel for a while, you know I have a lot of their albums. I don't have this one because I don't collect anything really but vinyl. So, you know, I guess I went for it. This is another one that I'm hoping sounds really good. I'm hoping meets the hype of everyone. But this is one I got sucked up in. Because if you watch my video that I did with Golden Image Music, where we did kind of going through a list, I was the only one there that said, nah, I'm not going to add this as a live album. I don't do live albums unless I absolutely love it or I know the concert. And I went back on my word. I'm sorry, it happens sometimes, but after being surrounded by so many folks talking so great about this album, I had to grab it. This is, yes, Fragile. These are the outtakes. This is also one I got talked into getting. Todd from the Graybeards Nation really talked up the Steve Wilson mixes, saying that they're sometimes the best versions of Yes songs he's ever heard. He kept pushing and pushing and pushing this album. And when I got there, I'll tell you, I flipped through the bin. There was a bunch of them in there. I actually flipped past them and I paused and I went back and I grabbed one. I said, why not? It's the first time on vinyl. I'm not familiar with the Steve Wilson mixes. This is a great way to experience it. I do like Yes, the album. So, I mean, I do like Fragile. I'm sorry. I do like Fragile, the album from Yes. So I figured I can't really go wrong. I'm not usually one that likes outtakes and rarities. I'm not. I think if an artist threw away the music and chose different tracks for the studio album, then why am I want to pay money to listen to the trash, basically? But the fact that these are basically remixes and Steve Wilson's on here, that's why I picked this one up. And I made the exception this time. All right, we got Bebe Rexha. I think I'm saying that right. This one I really picked up for the wife, guys. I don't know what else to say here. It's got some hit singles. This is a solo album, first time on vinyl. I don't know much about it. This was one that my wife asked me to pick up, so I did. And I think you have to pick up albums sometimes that your significant other likes, because, you know, then they're not so upset when you come home with a bunch of records because you thought of them and you picked up some stuff for them. At least that's the way my brain works. Okay, this is Too Short Cocktails. What a fun album this is. Again, I mentioned earlier, I do like hip hop. I do have some Too Short albums in my collection. I didn't have this one, so I figured why not? Why not add it in there just to kind of roll out the collection? This was originally released, I believe, in '95. I don't know, has this been pressed before? It doesn't say. I don't know what the pressing history of this is, but anyway, it's an album I didn't have for an artist that I collect, so I grabbed it. All right, we got this is Modest Mouse album. This is live in Orlando, Florida. And I have, again, this is another artist that I have almost their entire discography. There's albums, this is where I do make exception with live albums. And I'll mention this again, probably once or twice more. There's times where, you have albums that, quite frankly, you have so many of their albums in their discography to begin with that almost not having what comes out next, you either can go two ways. You could say, well, I already have so much of their stuff, I don't need it. And a lot of people do that, and that's fine. I have the other side. I'm like, oh, now I'm gonna have a hole in my collection. And I don't know if I'm gonna see the album again. And you start getting this almost like FOMO of not being able to complete the collection, especially when you worked hard to complete the collection. So for me, this is kind of one of those albums, I'm gonna say that again probably one or two more times here, where I just picked up the album, quite frankly, not to have a hole in the collection. All right, next up is Buffalo Springfield and the Byrds. It's kind of interesting because the album's kind of like one of these. Instead of going like this, you got to do like this, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, this is live at the Pop Festival. I like the Byrds. I like Buffalo Springfield. This is another one I originally said no to, but I was picking up so many live albums that I figured at this point, why not? I like both bands. Why wouldn't I go ahead and pick this up? I mean, that's really, honestly, that's my reasoning for it. Okay, you remember when I said having holes in the collection and you're afraid, well, not necessarily afraid, but like you'll get this feeling like, oh my gosh, I worked so hard to complete the collection and I'm gonna have a hole. This is one of those. This is Cypress Hill. This is live at Rock Park in 1999. This is really the reason I got it. I'll be honest with you. The first time I saw this, I did this at the sneak peek video with Phil, and I'm like, what do I care? It's a live concert. It's on Smoke Vinyl. Who cares? Great gimmick, right? It's Smoke Vinyl. But more and more I thought about it, I'm like, why would I not get this? I have a lot of Cypress Hill. It's never been on vinyl before. I might as well grab it. And that's kind of was my attitude to this. I'm going to tell you, a lot of these albums, I came in with the thought of saying, no, I'm not going to get them. And then I sort of talked myself into it. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. If they sound great and I enjoy listening to them, then it was a great choice. If they sound horrible, like it sounds like, an FM radio, some of these live ones, then it wasn't. And I got to be honest with you, I've got those albums. I got those albums that you listen to and it's like, this is done horribly. What the heck am I doing? Okay, so Big Brother and the Holding Company, live album again. This Janis Joplin's featured on here, live at the Grand Ballroom. I don't know. It's first time vinyl again. I think I just got sucked up in the hype of all this one. There was folks talking about this as a great album, that they were really looking forward to it. And then I noticed it was mentioned a couple times on some YouTube videos. And this was one that I had. When I arrived at the store, I had no intentions of buying, but after sitting there, talking to people, listening to videos online and stuff, I got talked into it. That happened to me. And that also would happen to this one. STP, Purple, Rarities. I mentioned before, and I'm going to say it again, I love Purple. It's one of my favorite STP albums. I really do enjoy the album. I have several pressings of that studio album in my collection. I had no desire to get the Rarities for reasons I mentioned earlier, is that these are throwaways. The band said, nope, they're not good enough. They're not the cuts we want to use. Why I picked this up, again, is the hype. I got bought into the hype. You know how many folks were talking about this album and how excited they were for this album. And when you hear that and you hear, oh my God, it's such a great album. Oh my God, it's going to be fantastic. Oh my God. When you're there and you're like, oh, that's the album everybody's talking about, and you grab it, you know, and that was kind of what happened here. I hope I don't regret it. Is what I'll say. I hope that it's an album I actually listen to, because a lot of times with these rarity albums, this is why I don't collect them, is you listen to them once and then all of a sudden you realize, you know, I like the studio version better. And a lot of times you're like, well, duh, because that was the best version. And you're not going to go and listen to these alternative takes or these early takes of these songs. So I don't know. I'd like to get your take. Are you a rarities person? Do you think I'm nuts saying that? Or you're like, man, I gotta have the rarities because I like to hear the evolution of the music. And yeah, I just like to get your take on that. You know, do you go out and collect rarities? And if you do, does it tend to be bands that you're really, really a fan of, or do you just kind of collect any rarities album for music you like? You get what I'm saying? Because there's a difference, I think, if you're a mega fan, favorite album, and you really want to just indulge yourself completely into that music versus, yeah, you know, I like these 5 or 6, 7 bands or styles of music, so I just grab everything I can from them. And yeah, I always enjoy the rarities and the outtakes. I'm just kind of curious to know your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. Okay, this one, I think I promoted this one early on as well, especially when I found out what it was. But this is the SpongeBob album. And I think a lot of people thought that this is like the cartoon music, but it's not. It's music from the movie. You got Wilk on here, Flamin' Lips, you got Ween on here, you got Motorhead, you got so many great bands on here. All the songs on here are from really good bands. So for me, this is like a good movie soundtrack, right? You got some great music on here. And I don't think many people really know that unless they took some time and read the songs on the back of the album. That's when you're going to realize that this is not a kid's cartoon, you know, soundtrack. This is actually a legit soundtrack. It kind of almost reminds me, it's not the same style music, but it almost reminds me of like the Guardians of Galaxy, right? Always a great soundtrack, regardless if you like the movie or not. And I'm not saying I do or don't, I'm just saying that's what it is like. Okay, this next album I'm about to share with you is one that was on my top list. I was super excited to grab it, and this to me made it worth showing up early because they only had one. And I know that because, again, I was the first person in line. So I grabbed the only copy they had. And it was one of the reasons why I got up early. And I could have just, honestly, I could have walked away with just this album. I think it would have been okay. I also wasn't, if I missed it, I also wasn't terribly upset because it's an RSD first. And that means hopefully it's going to go ahead and get reissued or repressed, and it's going to be more widely available. But that's better than Ezra. This is Deluxe. This was a 90s album from 93. First time available in record stores. They did press this on vinyl one other time. Limited runs. They only did it for their concerts. And if you find this on the aftermarket, on Discogs or something like that, and it's a good quality pressing, you're going to pay $400 around for a pressing of this album. I'm a 90s rock person. I painful to say I like collecting 90s rock because it's stupid and, you know, and I say stupid because they're just so hard to find. Even if they're in print, meaning that they actually pressed it on vinyl and not just CD, when you do find them, they tend to be beat to heck, and the good ones are super expensive. So it's just such a painful category to collect. And I had this album on CD, and I played the heck out of it. And to me, it's the best album, better than Ezra has come out with. I'm super excited about this. Of course, it has the hit song Good. That's the song that everybody knows. That's the song that still is played on the radio and still used in movies and everything else. But I think that whole album is a good album, and I'm very happy to have it. Okay, Rolling Stones, get your yayas out. I don't have this album. That's the reason why I picked it up. It's a great recorded Rolling Stones in concert. It sounds fantastic. It's arguably one of their best concerts ever recorded. And I didn't have a pressing of it, so I took the liberty to pick one up on Record Store Day. That's really the only reason why. I don't have anything more to say about that one. I did pick up Olivia Rodrigo's album. This is the Guts. It's kind of like, I don't know, special edition or whatever it is. what do they call it? Spilled. Got spilled is what they're calling it. So I listen to all types of music. I'm a Duke Ellington kind of guy when it comes down to his saying there's only two types of music, good music and bad music. I think Olivia Rodrigo makes good music. Whether her music is for everyone, that's to be debated. I like all types of music, and I can appreciate well-done pop music, even though I'm not a teen female or whatever. I can appreciate what the artist is doing. I have artists like her. I have her collection. I have Taylor Swift. I have Billie Eilish. I have a lot of these like teen pop star musics. You can judge me if you want. I also have death metal and stuff like that, right? So, I got a little bit for everyone. I just appreciate music. This is why I picked this up. I originally wasn't, but when we did the sneak peek with Phil, and I had a chance to take a deeper look at the packaging and everything and did some more reading up on the album, I figured, what the heck, I might as well add that one to the collection. Tangerine Dream, this one's one I got tucked into as well. This is a live album of the band here. Glasgow, November 1974. Honest to gosh, I don't have any Tangerine Dream in my collection. Vinyl, anyway. I realized I have other, media formats of them, but I realized I didn't have any vinyl. And I didn't realize that until I was doing the kind of preview show, the pre-RSD show, and we were talking about Tangerine Dream, and I didn't have anything in their collection. And this was talked up about by a few people, Todd from the Gray Beers Nation being one of them, who really, really, really was trying to push me to check this out. But then did say maybe I get a couple studio albums instead of buying this because it is live and that might not be for everyone. But I figured when in Rome, I might as well go ahead and grab this first time ever on vinyl. So I'm excited to add basically a new artist in the genre of vinyl, in the format of vinyl, to the collection. So that's pretty cool. Okay, next up is one that you probably all heard. This is Carl Stallin's music. This is the music he did for Looney Tunes, arguably some of the best music ever created because it is known by everyone. As soon as you start playing any of these tunes, you immediately remember the Looney Tunes and the cartoons you grew up with. This has some of the best jazz and orchestra music probably ever put together. And, it's just going to be a fun, nostalgic album. This album I got talked into by Larry of Gray Beers Nation. He really talked highly about this. He did make the argument for him. He already has the CD, so he didn't really see the need to spend the money on the record, but I didn't have either. And I originally started out with, it's just nostalgic music, so I'll just stream it if I ever want to listen to it. But then I was like, you know what? I'm never going to go out of my way to listen to this music streaming. I just won't do it. But it is essential music. It's music for all ages. My wife is a huge Looney Tunes fan. She grew up watching the Looney Tunes, and I just figured, this is a great addition for the family. This to me is a family album. The Carl Stalling Project. I added that because I was thinking of not just myself, but I was thinking of my family. Okay, this one I'm super, super excited about. This is the B.B. King live. You just can't go wrong. Phenomenal recording. BB was still trying to prove himself, even though he didn't have to. A lot of energy in this one. From what I understand, this has been recorded extremely well. I'm looking forward to, this is probably going to be one of the first albums, at least one of the first 5 that I'm going to crack open and listen to. I really, really love B.B. King, and this has got me super, super excited. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I think this one was honestly on a lot of people's list, the B.B. King in France. Okay, this is not a Record Store Day album. These are obviously in no particular order. This is not a Record Store Day album, but it is an album that came out around the time for Record Store Day. At least I think it came out on Record Store Day, and it's the Reality Bites soundtrack. And this has got a lot of great songs on this. I don't know if you remember the movie, but this has got Lenny Kravitz, it's got U2, Crowded House, Dinosaur Jr., The Knack. You got Lisa Loeb on here, Ethan Hawke. You got tons of great artists on this album. It's a good movie. It is a great sounding soundtrack, or it's a great soundtrack. I don't know how it sounds yet. Obviously, I haven't spun it yet. But yeah, this to me was kind of a little bit of a nostalgic purchase. I remember the movie, had a killer soundtrack. I don't have it on vinyl, obviously, so I went ahead and pre-ordered that, and it came in time for Record Store Day. So sorry, it's not an RSD release, but I do believe it came out today. I think today is the official release day of that. Okay, this one is interesting because I know nothing about it. I'm going to be honest with you. This Charles Wesley Godwin, I think I'm saying his name correctly. I don't know anything about this. I skipped over it through the first pass, and the way that the Record Store Day works at my local is that once you go through the bins and you pull all your selections and you leave the table, because all the Record Store Day stuff is on a table, you're not allowed to go back until everyone in line has a chance to go through. So we're filming live and everybody finishes and we're still live. And I said, let me go through and see what's left over. And I start calling out all the names. I scroll through and I'm saying, this is what's left. This is what's left, in case anybody's watching and wondering what's left and if they should head to the record store. And I passed over it then. And then later, while I was in line, when I was waiting to get in line, I was waiting for the line to get down. And I was talking to some folks. I went over and I browsed again. I'm like, you know what? I don't know, something about them all sitting there kind of playing music. And I don't know if this is Charles himself in the background, but he looks like he's really into it, really passionate. This is one I totally purchased because it looked fun. I know nothing about it. I could hate this album. And it's funny because there's probably people out there that this is the album they really wanted. Maybe for me, I don't know yet, but it was too. But I know nothing about it. I think sometimes you have to pick up things to expand your taste, to try new things. I always try to pick up at every Black Friday, Record Store Day. I always try to pick up one or two albums of things I never heard of, but look interesting. And that was one that looked interesting to me. So I'm excited to kind of go through that learning experience of listening to the music. And then of course, when it's a new band, I'm not familiar with them. I know nothing about them. While I'm listening to music, a lot of times I'll do some research, maybe ahead of time or while the music's playing to kind of learn a little bit more about them. So if it ends up being a hidden gem, I'll definitely come back and let you know. If it's not a hidden gem, I might not talk about it ever again. So we'll have to see how that turns out. Okay, Scarlett Johansson. This was also another I grabbed, I think, second. It was the only one left after everyone has gone through. And I don't know. I just grabbed it. I don't know. It was one of those just second, third choice grabs. I can't really tell you very much about it. I know I've listened to her music before, but I don't have any albums of her. So I just figured, why not add one to the list? That simple sometimes. Okay. All right, we got some things to talk about. So, got the Jazz Sabbath. This is the mono, this is the Record Store Day. This comes with, let's see if I'm saying this right. Yep, this comes with a bonus track and I believe a DVD. Yeah, a bonus CD, sorry. Comes with a CD and a bonus track. And where it's a bonus track is because this is the mono. This is Record Store Day. This is generally available. This is a stereo, right? Different songs. The track layout here is different. In the mono, it goes Into the Void. That's how the stereo starts. And then you go to Electric Funeral as track A2. A2 in here is Spiral Architect. So this is a different list of songs, reordered, I should say, on the stereo version. But the track you get extra is Hole in the Sky. Hole in the Sky does not appear on the stereo. But I am interested to know which one sounds better, the mono or the stereo. And that's why I picked up both. I picked up both because I want to plan to do in the near future a sound test between the mono and the stereo to let folks know if they're looking to buy the Jazz Sabbath mono and they missed out on it before they go pay aftermarket Discogs prices, because these things tend to go high up in value, the Jazz Sabbath releases. Is it worth paying the money if you could just go ahead and pay normal price for the stereo version? And I don't know yet. I don't want to come into it with any pre-notion, but yeah, that's kind of my thought there. So future bake-off between the mono and the stereo to come. But that one was cool, and there was only one mono of the Jazz Sabbath as well, so I was glad to grab that. But the store did have plenty of the stereo, so that was cool. Snoop Dogg live, I grabbed this for the same reason I grabbed the other live albums I was telling you about, is because I have a lot of Snoop in my collection today, never before released on vinyl. This was one I just added because it was, again, I didn't want that feeling of I had a hole in my collection, so I went ahead and grabbed this. Sixpence, None the Richer. This is their Christmas album. I grabbed, honestly, I picked this up because the owner of the record store, Phil, kind of talked highly of them. Thought this was a really fun album, and you know, sometimes you take people's recommendations on things to pick up. I've never heard this album, and I didn't even know they had a Christmas album, to be honest with you. So I'm excited to give that a spin and see what that's all about. Okay, Garbage. This is copy paste, and what this album is, if you're not familiar, it's 10 songs that are from other artists. You got other artists in here like Starman and stuff like that. Starman, that's the name of the track. Like David Bowie and a bunch of other people that they basically cover. There's basically a Garbage doing cover songs. So I was really interested to see their take and their version of these songs. The more and more I read up and learned about this, the more and more I knew I wanted to get it. It wasn't on my original list, but I think earlier in the week when I went back to Phil's and did my second sneak peek and I started to talk to Phil about this album, I added it to my list. So I did come into Record Store Day as this being one that was on the list to give this one a try. So hopefully it's not complete garbage and it's a good album. We'll have to see. Okay, this next one, I don't know if it was a good choice or not. I like her a lot. I think she makes good music. I did not buy her latest album because I think that the mastering is horrible and it's on Eco Vinyl, which makes it even worse. But that is Billie Eilish. And this is the isolated vocals of her Hit Me Hard and Soft. I don't have Hit Me Hard and Soft. It's the only album of hers I don't have in the collection, just because I refuse to buy an album that I know sounds horrible. And if Billie ever has somebody properly remaster that album and they release it, I don't even care at this point if they re-release it on Eco Vinyl, as long as it's good Eco Vinyl, because I know there's ways to do it good. I don't even care if it's that. But if it's on black vinyl or if it's mastered better, like I need at least one or the other here. Hopefully I get both. Hopefully it's mastered for vinyl and it's pressed on black vinyl or pressed on color vinyl or something like that. I'll pick it up. But I'm taking a chance on this one. I'm taking a chance on the isolated vocals. I said earlier, I think I said earlier, I'm a little bit tired, so I don't remember if I said earlier. At least I was thinking it earlier. There might be one I don't open right away. This is it. If the reviews of this one comes back that is just as crappy as the studio album, I'm going to get rid of it. I have no reason to keep it. But since I didn't have the studio album, if the feedback of this one comes out that this is a good pressing and it sounds good, then this to me fills a hole in my Billie collection until they actually learn how to put out that studio album correctly. So that's where I'm at with the Billie Eilish album. That wasn't one I was going to grab, but after more and more I thought about it, I'm like, I don't have the album. It's the only Billie album I don't have. I want the album. I can't. When and it's like this sounds like crap. It's like it was somebody gives you food to taste. They're like, oh my God, this is horrible. You try it. You're like, no, I ain't going to try it. That's how I feel about that album. I know it's crap. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to give it a try. But nobody knows about this one yet. So we'll find out. Okay, this was number 2 on my list of things I wanted to get. That was available. I actually had a couple items on my short list. I want to talk about it real quick. John Lee Hooker was on my list. They didn't have it at the record store. They didn't have Thievery Corporation, Joe Baton, but one of my friends online, I just got a message. Thank you, Metro, was able to grab a copy for me. So thank you, Metro. We'll square up and he's going to get that shipped out to me. So I'm super excited about that. I wanted to get the Rage Against the Machine DNC convention. They didn't have that one either. Shahab or something like that, the jazz musician that's really hard to find. I had no interest until I kept reading about it and learning about it. And then I started playing the music online, through online streaming services. I'm like, this is really good jazz. So all of a sudden that one came on my list. That they didn't have that one. I'm not going to go find it, by the way. Like, I'm okay not to have that one, but that became on my short list just because of the rarity of it. And I knew if I passed it up and it was available, I might never see it again. I might never find it again because all of his albums are super, super rare. Golly, I feel like there's one more that I'm missing, but it's not coming to mind. If it comes to mind before I finish this video, I'll let you know. But this is the album I was talking about. This is The Doors live. This is first time, I think, on vinyl. They came out with this on compact disc. This is a beautifully recorded concert. It is a wonderful concert. This is the longest concert The Doors have ever done. There's actually on this LP or this box set, there's 11 tracks that didn't make the concert or this pressing. And it's already, what is it, four LPs? How many LPs is it? I don't know. It's a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 LPs. So it's 4 LPs long. They probably would have had to made it 5 or 6 if they would have actually released all of the tracks, which would just make it unreachable for most. But anyway, I'm super excited to get this one. Numbered copy. This was one that was on my short list. The hefty bag is just a cover that the record store puts on there to protect the outer sleeve, especially since a lot of people grab Record Store Day albums as collectibles. They want to make sure that none of the outside gets damaged for folks. I think that's actually really cool and really special way to treat the records. But yeah, I'm super excited about that one. That is also probably one of the first 5 that I'm going to go ahead and unravel. Okay, next up, I grabbed both of the Echo and the Bunnymans. This was a little bit of reach to me because they're just short albums, but they, for $20, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I just grabbed them. Again, it was something that was kind of talked about, and I think I just got caught up in the hype, if you will. King Missile. You guys know this one. It has a very controversial song on it. I'm not going to mention about it out loud, but this is Happy Hour on blue vinyl. If you remember this album, this is a great album from the 90s. And, I haven't seen, I don't know if this is the first time ever on vinyl or not. Did somebody who's a bigger King Missile fan than me will probably know that. However, I've never seen this pressed on vinyl before, so I figured, why not? Okay, this next one is not a Record Store Day release. This was a new release in the new release bin, and that's Firehouse. I picked up Firehouse as well. I won't spend too much time on it because it's not a Record Store Day release, but it is something I picked up on Record Store Day. So hopefully you guys too spend some time to pick up albums from the record store and to support the indie store, your local indie store, right? Because that's what Record Store Day is all about. Okay. Next up is an album that I'm hoping is a good buy. And I'm going to explain to you why, because when I mention the name, you're going to be like, of course it is. You have to buy it. It's an automatic yes. And I agree with you, but I'm going to tell you why I disagree with you. This is a Jazz Dispensary, Golden Hour. They did some tripped up thing with the cover here. It's supposed to be some, I don't know, chemical reaction to the music or something, recorded under a microscope or some craziness like that. The reason I had hesitation buying this, because usually Jazz Dispensary, you can't go wrong, is because the last album that they came out with in April on Record Store Day, this first side A, is fantastic. I mean, it's a beautifully done album. All the music on there is just awesome. But then when you flip it over to side B, I don't know what happened. It's like a completely different curation of songs. And I got to be honest with you, I hated it. I didn't like it at all. So I would only ever spin side A on that album. So I was kind of gun shy on this one. I'm hoping that it was a good choice going by who I'm seeing and from both sides, from an artist standpoint. I think I think this was a good one. Okay, next up is Noah Kahan. A lot of, I know younger folks are really crazy about Noah Kahan, the Sixth Season album. This is collaboration. So these are, 8 of the songs that are redone with other artists. You got Post Malone, Casey Musgraves, Gracie Abrams, etc. on here. A lot of great artists doing the songs with Noah Kahan. I'm hoping it sounds good. I tried to preview this. I couldn't find it online to preview, but I know Sixth Season's a good album, so I figured, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool way of interpreting the music from the album, so I thought, why not? Okay, Jimi Hendrix. This is the Groovy Children. This has 5 songs from the concert. I got to be honest with you, this is a 2-day concert. This was kind of a forced thing to do. Jimmy had to record an album for the label, and so he did this concert in a way to create an album for the label. I would love to see this come out as a box set. I don't want samples of the albums or songs. I would really love to see this come out with the whole box set. And it even says from the box set of the songs for Groovy Children, but I don't know where the box set exists. I don't think I've ever seen it. So maybe it's a CD thing. Maybe it released and I missed it. I'm sorry if I did. I'm going to have to do some more research on that, or maybe the box set's coming. I don't know. Hopefully somebody who has more information could share that in the comments below. Okay, folks, that pretty much rounds out Record Store Day purchases. I do have 2 that were pre-owned purchases I'm going to share with you in a moment, but there were the picks that I chose. Now, there's a lot of things, like I mentioned earlier, that I had a needs list, which was my short list, and then I had a wants list, which is a little bit larger list, and then I had a spontaneous list. And I feel like I got a lot of stuff on my spontaneous list, things that I didn't go into Record Store Day necessarily with a high aspiration to pick up, but I ended up picking up because I just got caught up in the hype. Got caught up in the hype and talking to people and getting their interest in what they're looking for, especially browsing YouTube and hearing other people talk about how wonderful some of these albums were, etc. So in many ways, Bill Evans was the other album. I really wanted to get the Bill Evans Live in Normandy. I streamed the studio or the single on Spotify when I was waiting in line, and it sounded great. And that was my biggest concern, because sometimes Bill Evans albums live, they don't sound that great. It sounds like it was like an FM broadcast. But that one actually sounded really well. So I came really, really stoked to want to pick up the Bill Evans release, but they didn't have it. So that's another one that I missed out. And I think that one was an RSD exclusive. I don't know if I'm going to seek it out on the aftermarket or not. I'll find that out. But I think that one's really going to be hard to find. And if it is reposted, it's going to be expensive. Okay, so the pre-owned ones I picked up was the Foo Fighters. This is Sonic Highway. This was in pretty much this is pretty much near mint condition with the records insert and the cover. And I didn't have a good pressing of that. I didn't have a pressing of it at all. And the same with this one. I didn't have Pearl Jam's latest album, Gigaton. So I found this pre-owned as well and picked it up. And again, this is a near mint across the board. I didn't have this album either. I don't know why. I was just hesitant to buy it, but I ended up hearing some good things and I picked it up. I hope that I like it. I don't know. We're going to find out together. But yeah, folks, that's the albums. They're the choices I grabbed. Is my selections for everyone? No, probably not. I'm sure you got your own thoughts and opinions. So I'd like you to share them in the comments below. Go ahead and share with me what you picked up on Record Store Day. I now have a lot of adding to Discogs, opening, cleaning these records, getting them sorted out. I have a very, very busy next couple days ahead of me. And of course, listening to all of these fantastic records. I'm doing some changes to my audio setup here. So I'm going to be in the mood to listen to some new albums. Going to be making some changes here. I'll share that with you in a future video. Folks, I'm exhausted. I'm very tired, just like you probably are. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. And I hope that I see you on the next video. And I hope that you had a great and safe Record Store Day. I'll see you next time.